performance on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business Index. Perhaps this is why the federal government has reviewed plans to launch an intervention program aimed at enhancing the development of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in the country. The PEBEC Business Champions Program. What more do we need to know about this initiative? I have the right person live in the studio to talk about this. Dr. Jumoke Oduwole. She's a special advisor to the president on ease of doing business and investments, Office of the Vice President. It's good to have you live in the studio.
Thank you. It's been a while.
Yes. Compliment of the season. Yeah, well, a lot to talk about. But let's start with your report. I think there was a report for PEBEC's 2024 Outlook. Can you give us an overview of what is in this document?
Well, we decided to release an Outlook. We released it on the 8th of January just to tell Nigerians what 2023 was like at our end, the critical things we were able to achieve, and most importantly, what we're committing to work on in 2024. You know that we've had a number of pillars that we've worked on since 2017.
17, yeah.
Yes. And so the regulatory reform intervention, the legislative and judicial, the subnational intervention, and the strategic communications. But the new one that you are alluding to, the PEBEC Business Champion, is the latest on the block.
We're going to talk about that. But the federal government seems to have launched a series of intervention programs in recent times for MSMEs and all of that. How are we tracking, what's the positive from all of this, and how are we tracking the positives from this initiatives?
So, it's a large government. It's a big government. There are new ministers. There's new energy. There's a lot going on. And there's a new office, coordinating the special advisor on policy coordination is tracking all that. Hadiza Bala Osman.
Oh, that's true.
Yes, so the performance bonds were signed by the ministers, the work that they've committed to. So it is being tracked. It is being harmonized. And that report will be coming out quarterly. Yes.
So that's where we're going to be getting to know what is happening here and there. Oh, now let's talk more about this new kid in the block. Now that's your new intervention. Tell us more about it and what we need to know.
Well, you recall that we've been focusing on MSMEs since 2016 when this intervention was launched. Now the new administration gave us the time to rethink, re-strategize what worked, what didn't, how do we want to take this. Full commitment from Mr. President and Mr. Vice President on this intervention. So we took Q4 to think through how to chart this course and looking at the economic headwinds that are going on globally and nationally, and the team came up with a strategy to engage very large businesses.
This time around.
Yes, this time around, because we've been working systemically on MSMEs, which is a good thing, but it's a long-term thing. So while that work doesn't stop, a kind of catalyst will be to work with very large businesses and expect by osmosis, they have value chains around them, they have clusters around them to really move the country in the right direction. So the PEBEC Business Champions divided into two parts.
Okay.
The first cohort, and we're piloting it this quarter, the first cohort is the 23 firms that gross over $1 billion per annum in revenue. And these are very big players in the Nigerian market. However, it may surprise you to know that there are 345 of such businesses on the whole of the African continent, which you can imagine, FTSE 1000, Chinese firms, you can imagine how many are over that landmark. So you see that Africa in itself is not playing where we should as a continent. And about half of those businesses, over 170, are in South Africa alone. So Nigeria having 23, really not good enough. So the government is like, we must make them our champions. We must have a bespoke service for them. We must support them however they need to be supported, domestically and regionally and internationally. The idea is that we want to scale that number. We also want to support the second cohort, which is, we have a benchmark of businesses that we're also starting with 27 of them. So the total cohort is 50, that by osmosis, we want to push them over the $1 billion mark.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I saw that figure and I was going to ask you that. I don't think we really did very well here. 23, that's not too good. But what is the criteria for selecting businesses that would enjoy this?
So the 23 are just their revenue. Over $1 billion per annum is a global benchmark, and we're going with that. So you cross that line, You have express service to the government, where Mr. President is interested in this intervention. So we're having one-on-ones with them. It's a bespoke service. And whatever it is they need that we can deliver, we work with at the highest levels of the administration to deliver that for them. The medium to large businesses, we started doing our homework, our due diligence. We look at, of course, the revenue that they generate, which speaks directly to their taxation, what they're paying in taxes. So are they good corporate citizens? Are they also regulatory compliant? So we look at all that, which is that's just the due diligence. But what that now takes us to is how many jobs do they deliver to the Nigerian economy? Yeah. How much export proceeds? What is their capacity? We also look at some sectors. We have some priority sectors, manufacturing, agribusiness. There's some big sectors that are not growing as fast as they should with our GDP, but they're so big that if we even can increase their rate of growth by 50%, 100%, it would move the needle for this economy. We're very interested in export proceeds. Good. We all talk about needing the dollar, and it's what's on everybody's lips. Yeah. There's no shortcut. Production, competitiveness, exporting, that is the way to expand the pie. I keep telling people, it's okay if as a nation we like to eat apples and grapes, imports. As long as we're exporting mangoes and pineapples, there's no problem. People in temperate climates, they love tropical fruits. I'm using that as an analogy to say it's not a bad thing to import, but you must be importing inputs to service your production for export. So we need to export value add, and we need to import raw materials or inputs, for productivity.
Interestingly, let's talk about regulatory and judicial interventions here. Yes. How has it been? Because many will say, I remember then we used to have a one-stop shop, SON and everyone on ground. How are they letting all of this happen?
Yeah. So NIPC has a one-stop shop. What the PEBEC works on is soft infrastructure. We work on people issues. We audit processes, and to a lesser extent, infrastructure, because the ministers on the council, Minister of Power, Minister of Interior, Minister of Works. So one of the pillars, I'll start with regulatory pillar, because remember there are 5 pillars.
Yes.
The regulatory pillar is the Executive Order 1 that we've had since 2017. There's a 72-hour timeline for working on responses to the reportgov.ng portal, which is our report mechanism. Now, compliance hasn't always been as it ought to be, so we track that. But where we're pushing for is enforcement. The Business Facilitation Act codifies the executive order, so it's now legally binding. The 9th National Assembly passed that into law, and it was signed by the former president just before the last elections about a year ago. So we're working on compliance, we're working on tracking. You recall that we release compliance reports for EO1 every year. We released the half-year one in October just to let agencies know what it is that is expected of them. We have a lot of new agency heads, a lot of new ministers, so the government is also in transition. So with now knowing that this is what the executive order speaks to single interface, ports interface, seaports, airports, how those are run. It also speaks to transparency, efficiency. So there's a whole methodology to mark it, and they're publicly available online. So we rank the agencies in terms of performance, but now it's keying into the Central Coordinating Delivery Unit. And this is a report going to Mr. President once a quarter. So what gets measured really gets done, or there will be consequences.
Indeed. Talking about councils, state judiciaries, and the establishment of additional small claims courts.
Yes.
I want you to tell us more about that.
That's a good one, and I'm glad you're asking. So we started this intervention for small claims courts in 2018 with Lagos State, and then Kano started. So Lagos State right now has dispatched over 8,000 cases using the small claims court. Just to say a bit for your viewers about the small claims court, this is personal representation. You don't need a lawyer. You buy a form for about 1,000 naira. You go to the magistrate's court. It's for liquidated damages below 10 million naira in Lagos State, and for rent as well in Lagos State. And what it is that there are no adjournments. So the magistrate listens to the matter Monday to Friday just till it's heard. And then there's a time limit. It's a 60-day to judgment. The judgment has to be released, and 90 days to execution. So it saves cost, it saves time, and there's more transparency because also the judgments are uploaded online. And what this does is access to justice. All those 3 million, 5 million trapped by traders, by contractors here and there, you don't have to write it off. You can just, you're not going to sleep in court. It's 60 days. You can get your own form. I've been to the courts. I've seen it. I've seen people suing their bankers. I've seen like all these charges and stuff. So, I mean, it's something that works just for MSMEs to simplify access to judgment. The interesting thing and why I'm glad you asked the question is that as at the beginning of 2023, we had 8 states that we had from 2018 to 20.
I saw that. 25 now. 25
now. Because while everybody was having elections and that, state judiciaries were just implementing their small claims court reforms. So 25 now. So we have the list available to check whether there's a small claims court in your state. We do the training, we do the rules of evidence, rules of procedure, and it's going quite well.
Well, we've had some bills passing to law and all of that, and supposed to help support businesses like the Startup Act, right? And of course, the BFA business facilitation. What's happening to all of this? How well are they helping?
So the BFA codifies the Executive Order 1, which I was telling you. So all that intervention is now legally binding.
Wow.
So that's the good news.
Great.
Startup Act is also being implemented. The new Honorable Minister has taken that on. He was part of it from the other side, and now he's in government, so they're pushing that. That's going well as well. These interventions are really for private sector to know and use. You're blinking in the dark if your stakeholders don't know what's being done. So everybody knows PEBEC worked with CAC to automate business registration. PEBEC works with NAFDAC, with SON, with immigration, with customs. I wouldn't say it's easy work. We have had some recalcitrant agencies, whether from the top or from the officers on the ground. So, but I would say that change management never is, even in private sector, and we have to keep going. So we have the report.gov.ng, and I would say also that on the other side of it, we've had agency heads and officers who have been committed to this, and we rank them. So the information is publicly available, those doing well, those paying attention, those who are not paying attention. But we need the stakeholders to be engaged, to speak more in a productive, cohesive manner, to tell us where the shoe is pinching and how the reforms are going. Some worked for a while and are unraveling, some are still steady and working well. And so that engagement with private sector is really important to keep going.
Interesting. Do we have timelines for any of these programs?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, which one do you want to know about? Because they all
the new one, the Champions.
The Champions, it's launching this quarter.
Okay.
We started engaging with some of the businesses. Okay. They're very large. They're quite publicity shy. But it's a matter of, are you over the $1 billion mark? Those ones are
the big boys.
Yes. So that's really the engagement starting there. We've been doing our due diligence on the other cohort, the 27 of them, checking really, we want to make sure that the businesses we're supporting are good corporate citizens and are also good citizens.
Taxpayers and all of that.
Paying your taxes, and then we want to know how many people do you actually employ? Are any of your figures over bloated? Export proceeds, are they coming in as they should? There's a lot of things that we're checking, due diligence, before we announce the list. But the big boys are clear. And girls, there's now well, not over the $1 billion mark, but at least over the ₦1 trillion mark. There's now a female in that cohort.
Wow, that's a good one. Well, like it's 2024 and work is on already. What more are we expecting, or should we be expecting from PEBEC? And what are you going to tell businesses? Because everyone is looking up. You see, we talked about the FX thing. You also mentioned it during our conversation. But what more should we be expecting from your end?
Well, these are very painful times, and there's no getting away with it. We needed the surgery, and it's been done. This is recuperation. So even though it's still tough, and the painkillers may not be a lot at this point, we just have to have the courage. It's a new year to believe. I would say that I was at the First Bank Outlook Breakfast last month, and they were talking about how new businesses are coming into Nigeria, Chinese, Lebanese, Indian businesses coming to have meetings, coming to do business in Nigeria. I want to encourage Nigerian businesses operating already in Nigeria, don't lose hope. every outlook. There's no outlook for this economy that's less than 3%, which is more than it was last year. Our Moody's outlook is already gone from stable to positive. So even though it's painful, I wouldn't deny it, it's always darkest before the dawn. This part, we just have to grit and bear it, but we have to enhance productivity. We have to work harder, we have to work smarter, year-round farming, infrastructure. There's a lot that government has to deliver for businesses, and there's also a lot that businesses have to do in terms of productivity, being really focused, tightening the belt in terms of consumption. Everybody in the country needs to tighten our belt in terms of eating local, dressing local, thinking African. Yes, we have to. Taking advantage of EFCFTA, exporting more. It's difficult in terms of learning all the terrain, but there's so many skills and workshop knowledge sharing modules available for MSMEs in particular to learn how to export. Exporting to other African countries, it's not as difficult. Other countries are already moving. Kenyans are moving, Ghanaians are moving, Rwandans are moving. I want Nigerian MSMEs to also try to export, because that's what they're going to be earning dollars. They're going to be earning FX. If you just export to the next country, it's going to be converted into, which is a whole different conversation, but that is what it is. For now, it's still going to be in foreign exchange. It's going to be dollarized, basically. And so their earnings will increase. So taking the time, it's a new year, to get that knowledge. I think get knowledge, the academic in me always says it, knowledge really equips you to not be a victim, to not feel sad and gloomy about the outlook, because people who have the knowledge know that this economy is going up. It's going to be 3% this year and up the next year as well. So taking advantage of knowledge in terms of all the policies and all the interventions you talked of that are happening domestically and exporting AFCFTA, their incomes will definitely improve.
And I would ask, do you think Nigeria is still that attractive for investments? We've seen the precedent everywhere. Do you think we are still open? The doors are open.
It wasn't me that said it. First Bank said it, and they wouldn't lie. They said it publicly. Every week they're having meetings.
Wow, new guys coming in.
What
is that attraction? Our population.
The question was, what do they see that we don't see?
Because I don't.
What they see are the fundamentals. The population, the energy, the dynamism. Nigerians are amazing. Nigeria is one of the only countries in the world, you rinse your pepper and throw it out, it's going to grow. So yes, there's a lot of things we need to get right, but there's a lot of things that we already have in place that others don't have. So we need to also start recognizing that our cup is already half full. There's a lot we have. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there's things that we have to do. But where we are now is a place where people come into this country, foreigners move here and make wealth. So Nigerians should not just allow, we don't have to take the perception and just lament and look at the negatives. There are other people that see those things and choose not to focus on them, and they're making money in this country. They're manufacturing in this country. They're working on agriculture in this country, tech in this country, creative sector in this country. Should I go on and on? Transport and logistics in this country. There are things happening in this economy. True. I am bullish about it, and I trust my MSMEs. They are the engine room of this economy. Nearly 50% of the GDP. And once the large companies start pulling them together and helping them charge forward, because they're a decentralized group, the only way is up for this economy. I believe it.
Amos, thank you so much. We'll keep a tab. We'll monitor all of this, the Business Champion Program. We hope to have you in to assess it and see how it's all playing out. Thank you so much. Dr. Jumoke Oduwole is a special advisor to the President on ease of doing business and investment. Office of the Vice President. Thank you. We hope to see you again soon.
You're welcome.
All right, let's take another break. And when we come back, we'll do some